Hello! Welcome to episode 10 of the Inspiration Station podcast, brought to you by the Charles Chang Institute for Entrepreneurship at SFU. Throughout this limited series podcast, we have explored the entrepreneurial mindset while hearing the stories of innovators and changemakers alike who have chartered their courses to success. This is it. We have arrived at our final stop on the Innovation Express, and we are excited to dive into our learnings and reflect on the adventure. Here we go. I don't know what to say or how to start this.
Okay.
I think we've started.
We've already started. We're wrapping this up.
This is the last one.
This is the last one.
This is the last one of a lot.
Okay, so we went into a deep dive exploration of the entrepreneurial mindset, right?
We did.
I'm just thinking back. The last time I was actually here, we were in my apartment. Now we're in Kevin and Brittany's apartment.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for letting us use your home.
Last time I was on, you had zero exposure. Well, maybe minimal exposure to the entrepreneurial mindset.
Minimal.
And maybe no tangible stories you could attach to any of the attributes.
None.
We are now, what?
None.
And through the guidance.
This is Krysta, by the way.
Oh my gosh, this is...
Hi.
Hi.
Krysta, so the I don't want to press that button. But the sound.
The sound y'all have been hearing? This one?
I make that sound. That's me.
Literally, that's her voice, and we recorded it. Now it's forever kept.
It's a talent of mine.
Can you do it live for us?
Ready? Okay.
So this is Krysta. She's our co-producer on the Inspiration Station podcast. And she's done a great job with just supporting us and making this podcast come to life.
And putting up with them.
I'll take it.
Okay, maybe I can
provide
some context here. So this podcast was kind of an idea that Maycko and I were like, do you know what would be so cool if we could do this for the Chang Institute? Create a podcast, let people know all the cool stuff that we're doing, and bring on our entrepreneurs, because we have a great community. But we needed someone to help carry that vision forward. Here comes Carson Keller.
Oh my God. Yeah.
More than willing to take on the challenge. Has completed, now this is going to be the 10th episode, which is so exciting. And it was a limited series that we thought maybe it'd be cool if we get 6 to 8 done.
That was our initial goal too.
Yeah.
Sorry, can we repeat that number?
We only wanted to get 6 to 8.
6 to 8. And then we got ambitious and said 12 to 15 because we were excited.
We were so excited. We were like, let's just do one every single week. Let's do 4 a day. But now we're here.
Yeah, Krysta. So you had brought this up actually in a one-on-one with us. With me. Not with me.
I was not involved in this.
No, you were busy putting your beats on.
I had my noise-canceling headphones on, and then I heard my name, and I was like, oh!
Yeah, and then you mind card all the way over.
I mean, kudos to Krysta for bringing this idea forward.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun seeing it come to life.
And the great thing is, I think in all this, we've had podcasts, we've had, whatever set experience before, but never really, for the intention of building an audience or, getting a message across in a very limited, short amount of time. Mm-hmm. So I think the three of us were walking in a place of ambiguity from the get-go of just being okay, is this something even leadership would be wanting to hear about or seeing, and then just being very careful and also nervous and apprehensive about who we're bringing in. For sure. And does the vision seem to land with anyone? And then we just decided to take the leap and just give it a shot.
Yeah, and it ended up with having people who were very excited to come on the podcast and tell their stories, which was so exciting for me, but I'm also sure for Carson, because he got to kind of go into the stories.
Oh yeah, and it's really cool because I've always seen entrepreneurs on Shark Tank, and that's this big huge platform for entrepreneurs, and I didn't know that it existed on any other scale or level or platform until I came into the Chang Institute, and I had very minimal exposure, as you mentioned a few minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And just to hear these stories and the thought processes behind how people have worked through their challenges and the highs and the lows, it really has inspired me to really take hold of that in my life as well, you know? And I think that the podcast series itself is a great way for other people to hear that. People who might not know what they want to do, or they know what they want to do and they don't know how to do it, type thing. And that was the goal of the podcast as well, you know, was for people to be inspired to make a change, no matter how big or small it was.
Mm-hmm. When we started this endeavor and we were conceptualizing...
Endeavor?
Yes, the endeavor.
Krysta, that's a big word.
I know.
That's more than 2 syllables.
I know, bringing out the big guns today. When we did our brainstorming session and we were conceptualizing from our first episode to where we wanted to end this, did the in-between journey, did we cover what you thought we would?
Oh, yeah.
Where did we go?
Where did we go and what did we cover and did we live up to the goal and the dream? Yeah.
The goal and the dream.
I think we met it and I think we surpassed it.
Let's just paint a picture. Where did we want sort of to take listeners to? We knew that it was for anyone that was entrepreneurship curious, as you had mentioned in the very first episode. Mm-hmm. And now we're landing here. This is the final stop. Mm-hmm. And we've taken these people through a journey of the landscape of SFU and the entrepreneurship ecosystem.
Yeah.
What is it that you hope that they are going to do now?
As I've mentioned, I want them to feel inspired, and they don't need to act on anything. Just be aware of your dreams. Mm-hmm. Having a dream can be it can induce a bit of anxiety. It could be a little scary to want to do something and you might not know how to do it. But just knowing that there are people who have been in your shoes before and that they had the courage to make those dreams become a reality or work towards making action on whatever that was. I wanted people to experience that, and people experience that, and we've heard that people have experienced that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you as well for taking everyone through the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was very important that it was someone who hasn't spoken the language or done it before, because it's important that it's a very authentic journey into that. I'm very curious now, and I'm sure Chris is too. You've taken the audience through this journey. What was your own personal journey as you went through every single episode? Were there any highlights? Were there any moments where you sort of took a pause and said, okay, wow, these are things that, I don't know, specific learning moments?
Well, first of all, thank you. I think the highlight of all the episodes for me, every single time, was the Mindset Matters Minute, and hearing what people had to say about each of the 12 attributes, because everyone had a different one, and everyone proposed their thoughts in a very unique way that was very special. And I think it helped me understand the meaning of the entrepreneurial mindset, and that from the very beginning, we knew that entrepreneurs come from everywhere, and you might not identify yourself as an entrepreneur, but there's so many different layers of entrepreneurship. There's innovators and change makers and anywhere in between, and they come from all these different disciplines and faculties and whatever. I still had a bit of hesitancy in identifying with this, and just hearing the people's explanations of the mindset attributes helped me just identify even more strongly with each one. It's just been such an incredible journey of realization, I think, and self-actualization.
Yeah. On that note...
Oh no! What's that sound?
Mike speaks so hard.
Before we get started on our mindset...
They can't hear you.
Before we get started on our Mindset Minute, we do have a gift for you for this podcast endeavor.
You got them done? It's a treat!
Oh my god. So stoked about them.
That's so cute.
They look wicked.
Do you want to run up and actually show one?
Look at... Okay, if you're watching the podcast on YouTube, you're getting a first-hand view of these. This is adorable.
Okay.
With that note, though, we do actually have some Mindset Minute attributes.
Mindset Matters, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, we do. We've done 10 so far, and we have 2 more to go, and I think it's only fitting that you each cover one. So, I think, should we start with Krysta?
I think we should.
I think we start with Krysta. So, Krysta, your word, and I don't have a timer for this, but just go. It's not like
we'll figure it out. I have time here.
Your word is curiosity.
Oh, that's such an interesting attribute.
Don't act.
And not that I went, hey guys, we have 2 attributes. If I had to pick a situation or an antidote that goes towards curiosity, I would have to say this podcast itself, because it was a little bit of curiosity that brought it to life. It was a conversation between Maycko and myself, and being like, hey, what do you think about this? Is this even something that's doable? Having that initial curiosity of an idea and then going forward with it. But also the curiosity that led us to each of our incredible guests that we had on this podcast. Curiosity lets you go to new places that you probably don't think you would have gone before. So my advice for everyone is to live each day with a little bit of curiosity. And that's what it means to me.
I think the whole idea of curiosity is really, it's really that. Plus having an open mind to new concepts and ideas. And there's been this thing that I've heard so many times throughout my life is like, do one thing a day that scares you. And I think that's where curiosity is like fostered. The idea of trying something new every day is being curious.
Yeah. I think what you've touched on, Krysta, is curiosity has this effect on people and like their mindset, in that it allows people to overcome their fears. It's transformative in the fact that it allows you to have a relationship or like understand whatever fear you're working with in order to go beyond that threshold, to explore new lands, explore new ways of thinking, and explore new ways of being.
And without the fear aspect that usually comes along with new territories. So we do actually have another attribute that's just for Carson Keller over here.
Where? Oh, here? I can't see him behind the hat.
Oh, yeah. So your word today is ownership.
So as y'all know me really well over the last couple of months, but maybe our listeners and some people might not know me as well. But I've been on a really big, crazy journey in the last few years, or few years. It's true as well. But in the last few months in particular, I've really honed into wanting to make a change in my life and understand where I'm going to end up in my future, and discover what my passions are, and strengthen skills and make new connections and all this sort of thing. Because I didn't have much experience in like a professional atmosphere other than where I worked in the past. And coming into the Chang Institute was honestly my first exposure to working in an office and having that culture embedded within me. But taking ownership of that was a big challenge because I haven't had that experience before. And having conversations about things that I'm not comfortable about has been really challenging for me for a very long time. And coming into this role, I knew that I was going to have conversations like that. And I knew I was going to have to learn new things. And just taking ownership of that hesitancy and that, I guess I was very curious. And I think I was taking ownership of the curiosity to arrive in a place of like, oh, maybe I do know what I want to do with my life. And oh, maybe I am passionate for these things that I've just not considered before. And it's taken me to a lot of new places. This podcast is one of those examples of like learning. And yeah, like it's been such a crazy past couple of months. And ownership. I hate that you guys chose that.
Oops, sorry we made it hard for you.
It was over a minute, but we'll accept the answer.
So in one sentence, how do you summarize ownership?
Stop.
I'm kidding. Let's take a real example of like you taking ownership. Like literally what we've done with this podcast is we've said, Carson, this is your sort of 6 to 8 / 12 to 15 / 10, 9, 11 episodes. Pick a number, really. And we said, okay, you literally have to go out, set up all the like the cameras, the mic, all that stuff. You literally record all the like the pre-audio. You found the music for it. Like, how is that not a better example of ownership? And like walk us through that. How you were able to say like, what was going through your head in terms of, oh, this is my project and I feel like this is mine and I can own it?
Well, first of all, I couldn't do this project without the support of Krysta, who is sitting to my left. She's been such a big help and my co-producer for this series. But now let's talk about me. So
Thank you.
I've never managed a project this big before. I've had project management experience in the past, but this is something completely new in terms of scheduling 10 weeks worth of content and scheduling people to come in for interviews, and post-production is a whole thing that this is like editing hours worth of content for hours and hours and hours every week. The process itself, yes, there's a lot of work, but as I mentioned, I'm so ready to take that next step in my life, and I'm so here to learn, and I'm so curious, and I'm so like, there's so much happening, you know? That this has just been so much fun to continuously work on. If I just sit back and I realize that like what I'm doing is not only impacting myself, but I'm doing it for so many other people as well. Like, we have listeners, like we've landed on the top 200 entrepreneurship podcasts on Apple Podcasts. That is so huge, you know? And we have hundreds of people who listen to our episodes, and my grandma in particular, I know you're watching this right now. Hi. literally gives reviews every single week of the podcast. Just knowing that it impacts people to the level that it has makes it all worth it. And that the whole journey to arriving at that place there was a lot of hard work. Week after week after releasing this, it reminds me that it's worth it. And if you're passionate for something and you want to pursue it, nothing's ever easy. Nothing's ever going to be easy. But if you love it, you'll wake up in the morning and you're ready to tackle it every day. Where we're at right now with this podcast and this project is like, yeah, I'm friggin' excited to do this every day. And I love recording these and talking to people and hearing their stories and all that. I feel like I've gone off on a whim here.
Is it okay if I jump in here and just like from my perspective, because I was the person behind the camera, right? Watching Carson kind of grow into this role and where the turning point of this podcast really was. And for me, I noticed it when our manager here went on vacation. We couldn't have that. Our manager. Couldn't, save us if we ran into an issue here, or if someone didn't like what we were doing. We had to stand up for ourselves and what we were doing for the project. And seeing Carson become the host that we all knew he could be in those episodes, it was like, yes, we got this. And it was definitely like a nerve-wracking thing, the first episode that Maycko wasn't there to help with, because at the helping of conceptualizing the project and making sure that we're on track and doing the deliverables of what we're supposed to do. But I remember it was like episode 5, it was like, damn, like this is working. Like we
got into a role.
Yeah, we got into a role. It was so awesome. I remember just like giggling, and like, you were on vacation, but I texted you being like, this is going great.
No, I love that. No, I loved getting that text message.
Yeah.
And like, it's just so, sorry to cut you off, but like, even just coming back, I wasn't gone for long. Like, I was gone maybe 10 days. But coming back and just realizing you're halfway done recording the podcasts. And like, I don't even need to check. And I was asking questions mostly because I was curious, but it was both of you just literally running this thing. And it was a thing that was living on its own without having additional support from anyone aside from you two.
It existed.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I know, Krysta, you've also grown a lot in the time over this project. Who says project?
Project.
You do,
clearly. Who says project? I know in our one-on-ones we've talked about like where like skills that you could grow, and I almost feel like that these words should have been switched, because I would love to hear your concept of ownership, especially through the podcast, of being able to take that producer lens and really hone into strategically understanding what we're trying to achieve, the message that we're trying to get to, and making sure that the audience is going from square one all the way to square 10.
I'm not going to go into it all the way, but it was definitely interesting hearing ownership, because a lot of this podcast was me actually letting go of being in the front seat and being the host position, because I'm used to being in that seat.
Because you do have your own podcast outside of this as well.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to like take the step back, and I know that you guys knew that for me, because it was one of those things that's like, okay, gotta just let it ride out. But then realizing that the producing seat actually had a lot of opportunity to guide where the podcast was going, I was actually able to take that back to my personal projects and reevaluate and be like, okay, so if this can be done in 10 episodes, what can be done here, right? Like it's a big reevaluation, and it was a hard conversation to have with my partner at that time, because we had our routine, right, and we were comfortable in it. So I had to take ownership of that situation and be like, I know we can do more. I'm having the urgency to take that on. So it's definitely been very interesting. That's it.
We're just in awe. Like, it's, thanks for sharing that. Like, I know being able to like learn what you hear, like take what you learn here and then applying it to your own personal things is like the most we could ever ask for when we do creative projects like this, right? Like it's bringing value not only to our audiences but to the person doing the work too.
So key takeaways, or anything else that maybe we don't think we covered in the podcast?
Well, as we've learned, entrepreneurs come from everywhere, and I think there was a trend on the podcast where there was a lot of people who have had an idea and they've turned it into a profitable or not-for-profit company, business, incorporated. Lots of journeys that people have been on, but I think it's important to emphasize just the fact that entrepreneurs come from everywhere, that you can make change from just like within yourself, and like just within your wherever you work or wherever you exist, within your connections, within your networks, within your ecosystems. Making change is a form of entrepreneurship. When we talk about the word entrepreneurship, I think there's a bit of a stigma around what entrepreneurship really is, and that when we're talking entrepreneurship, we're talking solely work, we're talking school, we're talking professional ambitions and things like that. But if you know me on a personal level, you know that I like to take things into my life outside of work, and having these conversations about making change can extend to your friends and your family. I think there's some bending that needs to be done in that, and like the societal understanding of what an entrepreneur is. You know, when I'm talking to people about what I do for work, they're like, "Oh, so like you work in business?" And I'm like, "No, entrepreneurs aren't just business people." Yeah. And we've learned that on the podcast. Like more than half of our guests didn't even take the business program at SFU, or they're not from the business ecosystem at SFU, and they've gone through different pathways to arrive at where they are. And look, they're making these huge, crazy changes, and they're winning big awards for it. Yeah, that's great, but you can do that on a small scale within yourself as well.
I think it's what we've been trying to say this whole time, is that entrepreneurship is a mindset. It is it's not just an attribute that you give people. It's the way that you view your life and how you present yourself to the world. Yeah,
and I like to think of it as something that you can learn, because everybody identifies with at least one of these attributes that we've mentioned about throughout the podcast, and they're words that are very familiar to everybody, and people do identify with them. And if they do identify with them, then exactly what you just made mention of is identifying as an entrepreneur it's so fluid in so many different ways. Yeah, I think we've arrived
at our final stop.
I think we did.
I think that's it. I think the coals have gone cold.
Thanks for listening.
That's another wrap.
We can't wrap like that.
We can't.
That's like,
okay, you know what?
So.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm here. And this is your hostess with the mostest. It's me. I want to close the episode by thanking, first of all, I want to thank the both of you for trusting me to host this and giving me the opportunity to learn and to grow. And it's been such a crazy, crazy journey. So thank you so much for letting me go on this journey and for making it happen, because it literally would not have happened if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you for that, and for all the support that you've given me to help me grow in the project. Yeah, thank you. And I also want to thank the listeners for coming on the journey with me, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are in the same shoes as me at the very beginning, and we've been on this journey together. I don't know. I'm getting really emotional just internally right now, because I've learned a lot, and I hope that you guys have too. And who knows, maybe we'll take it into the future together one day.
We're done! Look at that. Woo! How you feel?
I didn't say bye.
Say goodbye now.
Bye.